everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone is okay. In today's episode, I want to talk about one of the most influential essays in literary criticism, Tradition and the Individual Talent by T.C. Eliot. First published in 1919 and later included in his collection, The Sacred Wood, in 1921. This essay is incredibly important because it changes the way we think about poetry, authorship, and the relationship between writers and the past. Very often, when we talk about literature, we emphasize originality. We tend to admire writers who seem completely unique or totally different from everyone who came back before them. But Eliot challenges this idea. He argues that a great poet is not someone who writes in isolation. Instead, a great poet is someone who deeply understands the literary tradition that came before them. In other words, literature is not just about individual creativity, it is about continuity. Eliot introduces the idea of what he calls the historical sense. According to him, a poet should feel that the entire tradition of literature, from ancient writers like Homer all the way to modern writers, exists simultaneously. This doesn't mean simply copying the past. It means understanding that every work of literature enters into a conversation with the works that came before it. And here's the fascinating part. Eliot says that when a truly new work of art appears, it doesn't just add something to literature. It actually changes the way we see earlier work as well. So tradition is not static, it's dynamic. The past influences the present, but the present also reshapes our understanding of the past. Another major idea Eliot introduces is what he calls the impersonal theory of poetry. This might sound surprising at first. Many people think poetry is mainly about expressing personal emotions or personal experiences. But Eliot disagrees with this idea. He argues that poetry is not simply the expression of the poet's personality. Instead, he suggests that the poet's mind works like a catalyst. He even uses a scientific analogy. Just a catalyst can create a chemical reaction without being changed itself. The poet's mind brings together emotions, experiences, and the ideas to create something new, a poem. But the poet's personal life doesn't necessarily appear directly in the poem. According to Eliot, the more mature the poet becomes, the more clearly they can separate their personal feelings from the aesthetic process. And this leads to one of the Eliot's most famous statements. He says, quote, "Poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality, but an escape from personality." Unquote. Of course, Eliot also adds something very important after that line. He says that only someone who actually has some strong emotions and a strong personality can understand what it means to escape from them in art. So, the poet's task is not simply to express feelings, but to transform them, to shape them into something artistic and meaningful. I think this idea is very powerful because it reminds us that literature is not created in isolation. Every writer is part of much larger cultural and historical conversation. And at the same time, every new work has the potential to reshape that conversation. For me, this essay is fascinating because it connects creativity with responsibility. A writer is not just inventing something new, they are also entering into a dialogue with centuries of literatures. So, I'm curious to hear about your thoughts. Do you think great literature should focus more on personal expression? Or do you agree with Eliot that literature is deeply connected to tradition? Thank you so much for watching me, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!